Hello, I'm commenting on this.
And became a social media superstar for documenting her gender transition.
And he's not documenting his gender transition, he's documenting the excessive amounts of plastic surgery he's getting.
Online, she also stood strong against the hateful
Hateful.
and boycott after her Bud Light branded post went viral. Now she's sharing her journey in a candid and witty new memoir called Paper Doll. Please.
Okay, paper dolls are not real women. Paper dolls are drawings of women, they're cutouts of women, they're representations of women. They're actually also frequently girls. They're representations of girls, they're drawings of girls. It's not real. It's a toy. So it's interesting that Dylan called his book Paper Doll.
Please welcome Dylan Mulvaney. Welcome to The View.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. Anna has the first question.
So, Dylan, in 2022, you publicly came out as transgender on social media, and you started documenting the first 100 days of your transition. And those...
Oh my God, he looks so frightening. He's always looked really frightening. He still looks really frightening. I don't think he realizes that people were watching him to make fun of him. They were watching him to be like, to show their friend and be like, look at this fucking weirdo. He thinks he's a girl.
Posts have now more than 1 billion, with a B, views.
Crazy.
So why did you decide to document that, and how was the reaction?
Yeah, well, I think when I came up to my mom when I was 4, and I didn't know how other trans...
Okay, I looked this up. He's 29, which should mean he was 4 in the year 2001. Transgenderism did not exist the way it does now in the year 2001. Period. I don't know what he's on about because he's lying. He might have said, I'm a girl, to his mom, probably because he loved his sister. Probably because he wanted to wear certain clothes or do certain activities. Oh my God, I'm so sick of this shit.
Women were getting to the, to where they were going on their journeys. And I look at someone like Laverne Cox, who you recently had on the show. And actually, this feels like a school presentation when you go up after someone who's like really good at what they were doing. Oh, shoot. But I think that I didn't know how to get...
Sorry, what's Laverne Cox good at? I'm asking.
To where women were like Laverne. And so I was like, let me start at the beginning. And I also was doing stand-up comedy in LA at the time. And I wanted to find the funny way into coming out.
I have a question. And my question is there a woman comedian who has as much plastic surgery as Dylan Mulvaney at 29? I don't think there is. Again, I don't think people were necessarily laughing with him, but at him.
They'd already come out 2 times before that, and I was like, oh.
How do you come out 2 times? Oh, he came out once as gay, and then he came out again as transgender. He came out twice, you guys. He's special.
Gosh, this needs to, be a little bit lighter of something. So I try to make people laugh, and I think that comedy is a really good way into, touching people's hearts and changing minds. And
when has he told a joke that was funny? I've never laughed at anything he said that he intended to be funny. Seriously, he doesn't really make jokes, though, either. But anyway.
And then what ended up happening was a lot of support, but a lot of hate. And I'm a people pleaser, so I wanted to make the haters see that there were other parts of me and that I am a 3-dimensional person. And so I've kind of taken people along this journey and gotten a lot more vulnerable than I ever thought I would, and overshared a lot more than I thought I ever would.
Dylan, wait, real quickly, Alyssa, before you go, I think people need to hear this. When you say you came out at 4, I don't think people understand all the time that sometimes a little child will come to the parent, which is what you did, and said, I feel like I'm in the wrong body. Like
How many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard that same exact wording in the last 9 years? I can't count. They keep repeating this shit. They keep repeating the same shit over and over and over again because they need to tell themselves that in order to believe it. They need to reiterate it in order to believe it.
I'm on the inside. Because so often, sadly, it's misassigned to schools and someone's trying to change someone. Oftentimes this happens.
It's misassigned to I don't know what she
For the children.
I don't even know what she said.
Or even out of the house. Right. Just I think that's such an important point.
Thank you. And I think that I knew how I felt. I knew when I even my sister tells me a story of like I went into the girls' bathroom in kindergarten and a teacher had to pull me out because that's where I thought I was supposed to be.
Yeah.
That's a 5-year-old. That's a child. Children do not have adult brains. He's like adultifying his child self.
Nancy Mays wasn't your big teacher. Well, and Dylan, so as you mentioned, you told your parents when you were 4 years old. How did they react then, and do they support you now?
Yes, well, I come from a very conservative Catholic family.
Oh, gosh.
Who is surprised? They all come from really conservative families, overly conservative families, or overly conservative societies.
But I feel lucky because I now am in such a great place with them. There's love there, despite our different views. And I think that's what, thank you. And, hi, Mom. I love you. And I think that...
Look how frightening he looks. He had his hairline pulled up on his face. Look, his eyebrows don't align correctly on his brow bone. He probably also had a brow bone shave. They do that for FFS, which is funny because in British English that means for fuck's sake, but in other words it means facial feminization surgery. So they'll shave your brow bone, move your hairline up to look less masculine. They'll sometimes shave your cheekbones, they'll shave your nose down, they'll shrink your chin as well. There's a lot to be done. And it's actually very risky. Plastic surgery is risky every single time it's done. If your heart stops beating while being anesthetized for plastic surgery, that's not a real doctor, so he or she cannot save you. He or she has to then call an ambulance because he or she is not qualified to resuscitate you. This guy is living on the edge. This guy is taking a lot of risks, and he's not well. Just because he appears okay doesn't mean that he is. Look at his nose. His nose is very like Michael Jackson. It's so small. It's very, very weird.
That's what's so frustrating about what happened with sort of, I call it Beergate in the book, but it's that...
Why is that's not funny?
I know that there's a possibility for love and understanding when a connection is made, and that's what I had with my family. And, I think my mom said something along the lines of, God doesn't make mistakes, but
exactly.
I don't think God...
If God doesn't make mistakes, then you wouldn't feel the need to mutilate yourself, Dylan. Neither would any transgender person. Putting that out there.
Sees me as a mistake, and I actually am still really trying to keep a relationship with a higher power because I think that trans and queer people are entitled to that if that's what they're looking for.
So the first transgender person I met is Rigo Ross Layton. He's the son of a very conservative Cuban American Republican.
Again. This person's from a very conservative background. Conservatives actually kind of some of them tend to love transgenderism because at least the person's trying to conform. At least Dylan's trying to be a girl. He's not trying to be a gay man.
Looking Congresswoman Ileana.
Which is so much worse. It's worse to be, in that kind of conservative mind thinking, it's worse to be an openly gay man than it is to be a pretend woman. Dumb.
Layton, who was in Congress representing Little Havana when Rigo transgendered. And everybody supported it because I think people know and respect when you put love above anything else.
Yes.
Yeah.
That meant nothing. She just said, I met a transgender person and everyone supported it because they put love above everything else. Listen to me. If my child commits a crime, if I ever have a child, that commits any type of crime, and I know about it, I'm calling the cops. I'm not not calling the cops because I love him or her, that's stupid. It's possible to love too much. I'm just going to say that.
1,000%. And I will always lead with joy. And I think that's what the book is really clear joy.
Joyful. Yeah.
Thank you.
How are you leading with joy when you can't even go outside without having done your hair and makeup? How can you lead with joy when you want to when you've cut your face up, you've cut your body up? I don't know how that's joyful.
Well, Dylan, as you got more popular on social media, you started doing some brand deals with different companies.
I did, honey.
Including, as you would call Beergate, Bud Light. A branded post that you did for them went viral. There were angry protests.
Okay. I don't remember exactly when that happened. I want to say it happened in 2020, maybe 2021. I feel like it was still happening in COVID. I remember having seen him do that plug, and I might not be remembering this correctly, but it looked like a Snapchat. It just looked like him, like, on Snapchat. It might have very well been him on Snapchat being like, oh, I love Bud Light. Here's my Bud Light plug. This is a legitimate company, yet they're willing to just have, like, a quote-unquote commercial be some random filming a commercial with their Snapchat. There was more to this than just him. But, like, it's also him. People don't, like, okay, his whole thing, all his whole thing is he's trans-trender and proud, and trans-trender and a social media influencer because he's trans-trender. Like, that's it. People, like, do men make things like this? Do men behave like Dylan Mulvaney? The answer is that they don't. They're not just like, hey, I'm a man. Watch my stuff because I'm a man. And when they do, it's shit quality. Sorry.
Announcing the brand, the company got bomb threats. You were the lead topic on conservative media for months, and it became known as one of the biggest boycotts in American history. Now, what people didn't see was with all this backlash, it caused you to have suicidal ideations. What did you experience at this time, and what helped you get through it?
Right. Well,
okay, I feel bad for anyone that that's happening to, but you don't get a suicidal ideation in a vacuum. I can't imagine he never once in his life had a suicidal ideation and then suddenly had them when a bunch of people were hating on him online. I'm gonna go ahead and call bullshit there, brah. Anyway, let's hear what he has to say. That's also just not healthy.
I will start by saying I love beer, and I always have.
I was gonna say, what were they thinking?
So, I mean, when I took that deal, I didn't think anything of it because I was like, oh, this is perfect. It felt like an organic thing to do, and because it was just another part of me. And I think what was so confusing about how it was going on was that it kept going, and I realized I had become the poster child for this thing when transness is just a small part of me. I'm a musical theater girl through and through, and so...
You're a musical theater guy.
I think that as that was... I didn't have all the resources that I needed to get through, and I'm the most privileged of transness, so I think that just goes to show how the rest of the community is hurting and the resources that we need. But what I think...
He's honestly so creepy. His makeup is making him look more womanly. Like, they've contoured his nose a lot to make it look thinner than it actually is. It is very small, but oh my god, he just looks so weird.
What was really special about writing about the experience was that people see me as this like eternal optimist, but I think sometimes the people that are seen that way are often the ones that are hurting the most. And what brings me the most joy is my gender euphoria, and to have that used against
his gender euphoria? Let me tell you something. A big reason transes love taking pictures and videos of themselves is because they can appear more quote-unquote feminine or appear more quote-unquote masculine in the videos, which are not real life. They can do the right lighting, they can do the right posture, they can wear the right makeup, and it's not real. But he has gender euphoria from quote-unquote dressing like a woman. Got it, bro.
Me it was such a mind game, but I went and did ayahuasca, which I write about, which is, it's a little woo-woo in there, but
I am really surprised that he did ayahuasca and didn't come to the conclusion that he needs to embrace the fact that he's male. Ayahuasca is a very serious drug, and you need supervision while you're doing it. Okay, it's that serious. I've heard of ayahuasca being used for drug addicts. And I've heard them not using the drug, not using their drug of choice after having done ayahuasca. And that's because ayahuasca, here's the thinking, I've never done ayahuasca, okay? But I know of it. Supposedly what it does is it forces you to feel all your feelings. Like, it forces you to, the most painful, most horrible things that have happened to you in your life, they just come up. You just think of them when you're high as shit on ayahuasca. A lot of people throw up. A lot of people throw up to the point of being dehydrated. Like, it can get pretty serious. So I'm just really, really surprised that he didn't. Maybe he did the wrong ayahuasca. Maybe he did it with the wrong people. Because he should have fucking come to the conclusion that he's male. Maybe he will one day. Maybe he needs to do it a second time. I digress.
I think it was really the people around me and the trans women in my life that supported me during that time and took my hand and said, this is our reality, welcome. Yeah. That's what got me through.
I wanted to ask you, because there's been all of this debate about whether transgender athletes should be able to compete.
I can hardly wait.
Last week, California Governor Gavin Newsom said that he thinks that trans athletes competing in girls' and women's sports was deeply unfair. Now, I want to hear what...
I'm just kind of thinking about her inflection there. It was deeply unfair. It's like a mocking tone. Would you ever hear a man speak that way if he were quoting someone? I don't think so. I have an issue with Gavin Newsom saying that just because he himself actually okayed transgender athletes to compete with girls. Biological males to compete with girls in sports in his state. He allowed that. He knew that was going on. And suddenly, after years of that happening, he's now saying, oh, I'm not okay with it. Like, why the fuck didn't you say that to begin with, bro? Maybe he had to see it happen in order to be against it, but that shouldn't be the case. Anyway, what's Dylan gonna say about this?
What do you think? Because I'll tell you what I think, too.
The last time I played a sport, I was 6 years old, and I was on a soccer team, but I assigned myself as the nurse. So I sat with the Band-Aids. And so, in the words of Wicked, I am not that girl. But a dear friend of mine, Skylar, he is a trans athlete. His handle's Pink Manta Ray. That's someone who I really look to for guidance. And I think that is what's tricky, is like, now stepping in this identity. I'm still like a baby trans. I'm only 3 years in. Tomorrow's my anniversary.
We all clap for the delusion.
Female to male and is competing with other males.
Correct.
No. Yes. Her friend. Her friend. So from female to male and is competing with other males. Gavin doesn't have a problem with that.
Well, no, well, I think...
That's such a joke, honestly. A biological female on testosterone pretending to be male, competing with other males. You ain't gonna get nowhere with that. You're gonna be in last place still. I mean, people are free to make fools of themselves.
Part of the problem that the trans community is facing, and it's the same problem that women face, is if you don't know anything about our bodies, you don't know how it works. Mm-hmm. So when you come in and you say, oh, these are men, competing against women, you're assuming that the women are weak and just can't do anything yourself. Have you seen female...
I was actually really confused as to why the women who were on the swim team with Liar Thomas were allowing that. Because if that happened to me, I would have spoken out. I would have tried to band with my teammates and said, we can't allow him here. This is not okay. We need to protest this. We need to speak out against this. But I'm only learning just now because the women are only coming out just now and saying what happened after the fact, because apparently when that was happening, they like basically got this really, really, really serious talking to from the university. I think it was Stanford. I think he was swimming for Stanford, of them being like, if you don't go along with this, like, you're being transphobic, like, you need to go along with this. Like, if you don't go along with this, you're on the wrong side of history. Again, if that happens to me, and they were like, and they also said, if you don't go along with this, you're going to get kicked out. You're going to get kicked off the swim team, and you're going to get kicked out of the university. As far as I understand it. I'm not sure if that's exactly what happened, but they really did get a really serious talking to, and then they were afraid to speak out. But again, if that had happened to me, I would have fucking spoken out, and if they had kicked me out, I would have been like, look, Stanford kicked me out because I didn't want a biological man on my swim team full of women. That's women's swimming. A very famous, very well-known elite university told me to leave because I wouldn't say that this male was female. How does that feel, Stanford?
Athletes, they know what they're doing. So I'm not sure what's going on or why this is an issue.
I do not even fucking know what the fuck but Whoopi Goldberg just said.
For me, as when people say, oh, I don't know how I feel about you. You do. God doesn't make mistakes. No. And the challenge is not to the trans people, it's to the people who are not trans. That's what God is looking to see, how you treat people.
Yeah.
Okay, this is very disturbing. Again, this is like her putting trans-trenders on a pedestal. This is her upholding trans-trenders as like holy somehow. She's saying that God will judge people on how they treat trans-trenders? How is this not religious? This is a religion, it's a cult, and I'm forever against it. Bye.